So when I did from my kind of energies of like, what am I going to do? When I did that, I wanted to see what energies through that Venetian principle wanted to come down, which beings, which gods, and commune with us today and elevate us today and seek to give us information. And what was really interesting and a little bit nerve-wracking for me, because I'm like, where are you all taking this? But what we actually got was community. And actually, what I felt when I was connecting was that we are being taught by today the energy principle or the spirit of community itself. So it feels like a very, it's a collective. It's both the principle, like, like how you might think of something is metal. That's what I mean when I say principle, like something has its, material designation. So literally the principle of community itself is almost like if it could be tangible, a distinctive thing. And then we're also working with a multitude of energies and spirits elevated that are here and through the consciousness of who they are expressing community energy, who are invested in community. We also have some ancestral energies here too that have a experience and knowledge, body programming around community that is very different to what we are living with and doing now. So they also are present to lend their wisdom. So to show you the cards that came up, we got the literal community card down here. We got the essence. Again, this is talking about what I'm saying is in the actual, I wish I had the right language for it. I don't. But yeah, we're talking about the thing itself as community, and then to emphasize, we're really talking about family. And when I looked at that mirror card too, it gave the energy of like shattered mirror. That's what I could see, like breaks and cracks. So we're looking at both distortion in what we're perceiving as community, family, places of connection. And we're also looking at fragmentation and there's another word I was going to use, but I don't need to. So when I say distortion, what I mean by that is that the image is being perceived incorrectly or being relayed other than its true form. So something we're seeing about community, we're seeing incorrectly, and fragmentation is also speaking to the breaking up of community. What's really interesting is I just looked down, and two of the cards we have that I'm going to come to in a minute. One is actually mirror, which I didn't notice before, and the other was apocalypse. So I'm really interested to see, because I have no clue. I'm really interested to see what we get from those energies there, particularly the energy of the mirror hairs. I've just mentioned it. We are also focusing here on the pleasure of connecting, with others. Okay. Give me a second. So I'm going to have a little look and see where this energy, where it wants to begin with us. Have the position of defense. We also have the position of outsider. The burdens of life. Creativity. And also particularly material benefit or what we produce from our creativity. And then something a little bit more obscure that I'll come to in a second. So to begin with, the energy I can see here is that we are in the experience and holding the perspective of the Seven of Wands, which is someone who is needing to defend themselves. The picture shows someone holding a shield and she's been under attack. This is something that's going on at the really primal level. That's what they're showing me, is that we have gone through a kind of evolutionary process as a species, right, as humans, in which we have very complex and effective, to some extent, systems for creating ways to get our needs met. One of those primary needs being like shelter and safety. So we're not in the wild, right? We're not living in the forest or the jungle directly. Most of you who are going to be watching this, we have built habitats that are homes, buildings, flats, like, and the intention of doing that and living in such a way is also to cordon off some of the threats that would have meant sickness or the end of life. And I don't just mean like threats in terms of animal attacks, but I even mean like if it's raining really heavily, if the wind is really blowing, then the way that we are meant to build the coding that we have for our buildings is intended to keep us safe from the elements. So that is what we have done on a kind of practical level in terms of our actions in the wild. But actually, what we're experiencing for the vast majority of people is not the benefit of the evolutionary systems of like living together or society that we've created. So in our bodies, for the most part, we are in a defensive position. You might want to think about it as like fight or flight, fawn, freeze, or the rest of them. But it is this energy of I am under attack. That's the signaling in the body, that there is not a sense of rest or ease. And this is creating sickness in the body, of course, because you can't maintain that long-term position of adrenaline and defense without it having physical consequences in the body. So I mean that whether you are very scared about your current circumstances and what's going to happen next, or whether you are very secure and your rent is paid and all the rest of it, or your mortgage is paid, all the rest, whatever it is, I'm saying that regardless of the material, so financial status you find yourself in, you are engaging in a life, in a world, in a community that is putting you on the defensive footing. And one of the teachers that I collaborate with and learn from, she talks about this as, I just lost my thought process. What does she call it? I've forgotten. When it comes back to me, I'll say it. But basically, that's what she talks about, predator and prey, is the framework that she uses, and I really agree with it. And so the concept here being that and I say this because capitalism has this habit of giving people a false sense of security, of getting people to overlook their true circumstances because they're able to have the vouch of either clout or money or material things. So I'm saying that I don't want anyone to listen to this and be like, yeah, some people are, not me. That is not true. We are in this dynamic of predator-prey. And for you, even if you're very financially secure, there are things that are predator to you. Particularly, very often, it's going to be the thing that you're getting your security from, that you are in a relationship exchange with it. That means that it's holding its power over you, having your security as a form of tyranny. So a good example of this is when you're sick and you feel like you can't call in and not go to your job because of whatever consequences, whether they are actual consequences or unspoken emotional, relational consequences in the workspace. You are trained towards overriding the needs of your body to maintain your security by going in when you're ill. That means that the space that you are participating with, collaborating with, working in to secure your security is a predator. It is going to make you sick, use up your resources in some way in order to get its own needs met. So that doesn't mean, therefore, that if you have a job and you go to a 9 to 5 or you have a boss, something is wrong. You shouldn't be doing that. That would be the wrong conclusion to take from this, because again, that is part of the ecosystem that we see in nature. There's a hierarchy in terms of the animal kingdom, and there is predator and prey. You said, "Woo, this is hitting," especially now we've been mandated back to 3 days in the office, right? So you're starting to get the impact of that relationship. So again, we see very naturally in the wild, in the animal kingdom, there are predators. One of my favorite predators is an orca, known as killer of whales. They're my favorite kind of predators. I adore them. So you have animals that you can think of as, okay, just because you're a predator doesn't necessarily mean that you are a bad thing. So again, this is not to internalize, you shouldn't be at your job. But what it is trying to do here is to make you aware of how fundamentally distant we are from the systems that we have created called society and the benefits of said system, which again, safety, community connection, shelter, inspiration, love, all these different things. We're participating in a system without actually getting the exchange. Now, this is really important, particularly when we think about Temple of Venus, because one of Venus's core principles, and I learned this, right? I could talk to you about this from the theoretical kind of astrological space, but I'm going to take the Jupiter of it and say, as a Venusian myself, this is something I learn in life experience and sometimes learn through the pain of. But Venus is very, very, very interested in being appropriately valued. So even me as a spiritualist, one of my core lessons in the last 2 to 3 years has been learning how to appropriately value myself, my gifts, my role as an oracle, find a place of value in the world, teach others to appropriately value me, because my existence is not reflected in the economic system. So again, I've had to do that. This is what we're talking about, 10 of Pentacles system, 9 of Wands, being outside and drawing from outside of the existing structure. That is something that I have had to design, craft a life around. But I'm saying that for many of you, even if you are within structures, you are now being asked to craft a sensibility, right? To learn, to engage your senses, to recognize the regressed animal state you were being put into. It is the equivalent. I'm thinking of a show that I watch, and there's an older lady who has a donkey that lives in her house, but it is the equivalent of, interestingly, I was going to say bringing an animal into the home, which we call domestication. So there is this sense of you being a domesticated animal in the systems of this world. You're not actually participating at the hierarchy level that is to be a human being. You're not participating at the hierarchy level, which means to have created this thing and to be in a relational dynamic in which you also receive appropriately from the thing that you created. Your dependency actually puts you in the position of a domesticated animal in the same way that your pets depend on you for their survival. So if we're talking then about the domestication, then we're also talking about the rewilding process. And you would think that if I'm talking about the status of human, as in being able to engage with what your consciousness has actually created and to benefit from the rewards of that, you might think, why would you go wild? Because you're going to think that wild means less civilized, right? Less evolved, but that's not true. When I say go wild, I'm talking about reclaiming the aspects of self that are your humanity, because you are a species too, in the same way a cat is a species. And so your wildness is the parts of you that say, this is what I am. I'll say I'm watching the show Heartland. It's not that great, but I watch it as like a little regulating, comforting experience. And they talk about, in this show, they spend a lot of time working with traumatized horses. And when they bring in a horse that is wild, they're very concerned about the amount of time they can keep the horse for, or the level of interaction, because they say the longer this horse is with us, the less like a horse it's going to be, the harder it's going to be for that horse to survive on its own out in nature. And that is what I'm saying has happened to us in terms of being domesticated. The rewilding process is the part, just like they're saying, these aspects are the things that make the horse a horse. And then through the domestication process, you bend the will, you break the will of a horse in order to make it, for example, a companion or a mule, or a car travel vehicle, basically. And all of those things, like I keep saying, they're not objectively bad or wrong. Vehicles aren't bad. Having a relationship with a horse that lives on your farm is not a bad thing at all. But these are adaptations, evolutions, kind of like different ways for that energy to be showing up. The wildness is what this horse really is. And so what we're needing, and I love it because I'm looking at this 9 of Wands and you can see kind of that evolutionary process mirrored on this card. And it is talking about what we're needing is to rewild ourselves back to the reality of what it is, what it means to be human. And as I'd say that, I can hear them saying connection. That's the word they're repeating, connection, 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 connection. Okay. I want to switch decks. No, okay. Just that's what going. Any other aspects from this deck? It's a little bit distracted. I'm really finding the shifted air energy a little bit of an adjustment. Gemini season. I mean, okay. Okay. So what they're saying is that today's session, we've got Arcturus energy here, deep cellular healing, physical and emotional healing. A lot of the energies we're working with today are about bringing through healing to this wound that relates to disconnection, alienation, like not belonging, lack of community, lack of family, loneliness. But also you got the love card here, and it says codependency and boundaries. And earlier I pulled two cards, and I'll show you. We have the kiss and we have the sustainer. And this is really talking about romantic energy, romantic love being the only place that we know to go to be able to sustain ourselves on one of our primary needs, which is for love, care, affection, connection. Again, those Venusian relational energies. What they're asking me to come to is to see what I had kind of what have we lost in terms of relationship and connection by through this process, through the domestication process. Okay. Just want to get some more decks out because I feel like today I'm really going to be moving through quite a few. Just bring out some more options for myself, so it's easier for me to segue. Okay. Do you guys prefer? Might be another deck change. I can't feel that quite clearly. 1 second. I'll stick with this one. Okay. So what have we lost in the process? Okay. Trying to pace myself because I can feel that energy of me rushing to the point. So what we have here is we have this cracked open card, and it actually came up in the reverse position. It's really bright. I don't know how well you can see that, but yeah, it came up in the reverse position, and it's really talking to, therefore, the shadow aspect of the cracking. Because cracking open, breaking through, breaking down to break through, having revelation through difficult experiences of breaking or expansion, it actually can be very powerful and helpful and a useful experience. In the shadow aspect, this is a level of breakage and cracking that has prevented any repair. So it means to have not, it's not a breaking through, it is the breakdown, as in that there's no movement. It's to be caught and to be stuck. I was not expecting this, but I'm not expecting any of today's reading. It's just a weird experience, but I will say that where they just led me to was actually the alienation from the soulmate. And I, with the Six of Cups energy here, I thought they were guiding me towards childhood, but they said no. And I just was not thinking that this was gonna be a soulmate. It's like when I'm talking about community, I was not thinking we were going to soulmate energy, but that is it. And they're saying that part of the long-term wounding and breakdown in terms of what we've lost in domestication is coming from the soul wariness. This is beautiful. I understand now. The soul wariness of disconnection or alienation or misunderstanding between soulmates. And again, it's really interesting because I was surprised when they led me there, but that is actually because I was conditioned to think about Six of Cups and seeing the soulmate energy as a particularly romantic or romantic love-based experience. And as I was going through what I was saying, the energy dropped in of your soulmates, obviously, which I know and experience, are so many different kinds of people and things and beings, right? I feel like you can be soulmates even with a place or a location, you know, a city, an animal. You can be soulmates with a friend, a parent, a child. So there is what they're saying here is what we've lost through domestication is the almost siblinghood. Oh, they showed me schools of fish. So they're like, you don't move with your soulmates anymore. And I want you to let that settle in. Because when we think even about animals in the wild and we think about even animals that aren't pack animals, are still going to be in very similar habitat or ecosystem, right? There's sort of places you go. You don't go, for example, to the top of a tree to find a fish, right? The fish are going to be in some body of water, and in different kinds of water with different kinds of qualities is going to it's going to be the right kind of home experience environment for that particular species or type of that fish or animal. And what they're saying is in our civilizing processes in which we started to create habitats, that was no longer according to your appropriate species group, and I'm just going to name it as, right? It's not according to your appropriate kind of type, the thing that you would naturally grow with. It then became a completely different system of organization, one that was hierarchical, one particularly based on caste or money. So these sorts of people live in these sorts of places. Poor people live here, this race of people live here, this sexuality of people tend to be here. And this kind of classification model has pulled us out of orbit. It's pulled us out of orbit with the people, the family, that we truly resonate with. And so that is why also it's really interesting because obviously you have your family of origin, right? The people that you were born into, and that could be good or bad, right? That could be a really harmonious and beautiful relationship, or it could be anything from the spectrum from good to abusive. So where you fall on that is part of your personal story. And that is an important part of the animal level of the human experience, which is to be born into dependency as like a baby, let's say, and be raised and be reared. That's the thing, that's just part of our developmental process that exists as what it is. But there's a whole other function, and this is why they're talking about the distortion of the family energy. There is a whole other function of the experience, the knowledge, the reality of what family is. So I've been talking recently to people close to me about orphan wounds and the lack of family, basically. And really what they're bringing through today is to really give myself, even in my language, a shift around how I talk about the lack of family presence, because that's not true. Is there a lack of blood relatives? Definitely. But have I had the developmental early childhood life experiences that the birth family as a container is supposed to be? Yes, sorry. Panama is incredibly loud. I really hope you can't hear too much that beeping. So as I was saying, I've had that developmental experience And I'm at a stage of my life now where I can function independently, and it is therefore up to me the nature of relationship that I have with that point of origin. So you think about orcas, for example, they are a group which tend to stay with the matriarch. They stay in pods, big families, loads of them together. And then you may have big cats, for example, who once the cub gets to a certain age, 2, 3, 4, that's it. Like you go off, you do your own thing. That parent, that mother is going to breed again and raise a whole new family. And so that's the kind of framework I'm using in terms of my life experience, where it is like, have you had those quote unquote 4 years as a lion cub? Yes. Were they good? No. But you've had the experience and it's finished. So now for me to start talking about family, it's not that there's a lack of family, it's that actually now I want to talk about expanding my family. And that energy is very different. Talking about childhood neglect, familial neglect, abuse, etc., is something very different in energy, even if you think about it, to when someone is talking about starting to, when they want to have a baby in a family. Just think about if you met a couple, you met an individual and they said, I'm ready to start, I want to have a child. And that intention and that joy of like, I really want to expand my experience of family in this kind of way. I want to adopt whatever it is. I even the energy of like, I want to have a partner. This is coming through this, like, I want to expand my energy of family. Again, very, very different energy to, I don't have any family. These people abuse me. So that's one of the things we want to be thinking about, doubling back in to this idea of being separated from your school of fish, being separated because you are living in societal zoning rules that keep you out of orbit with the people that you need. It does feel today as well that there just needs to be a little slowness and a little silence. And I think those gaps are to let the concept and the idea, like I said, Gemini season's got things really high up and really broad and really spacey, and like it feels like passing concepts. And so I'm going a little bit more slowly. I'm holding a little bit more space for silence so that we can let the concept, those realities drop in. Hey, hey, welcome to those who just came in live. What I love about what I'm feeling and the energy that's here is that there is obviously grief related to that estrangement from your soul group, from your soul family, so to speak. And really, I don't want to use the framework soul family because it felt really dissonant when I said that. And I think there's a lot of whatever our concepts are around that right now, and not necessarily what I'm trying to conjure to mind when I use that word. So actually, I'm just going to say family straight, and my spirit team are like, yes, I can hear them saying yes. Drop the soul family thing again, because soul family is making like something separate that is different from the actual family energy archetype, and that separation is not helpful because it also gives it hierarchy, and in many ways it gives it a lesser hierarchy to the blood family. So we're just talking about family, point blank, period. But when I talk about the potential grief you could feel around not being with your school official family, what I don't feel any energy of expansion there. What I feel is excitement and hopefulness. And that is coming from that, not me. That's the spirit who are actually really like, this is not a moment of grief, actually. This is a moment of excitement, because I think what they're pointing to is that this Jupiter in Gemini, they're like, yes, they're so excited. This Jupiter in Gemini transit is going to have such a supportive energy to reconnect to locating, like finding Nemo, to like locating the fish that are swimming in the same stream as you spiritually, and also not. I want to query the way I'm using spiritually, because sometimes people can take that to mean particular like belief system, and I don't really mean that. I don't mean someone who also believes in this God as you. When I talk about finding your school of fish, it's a lot more archetypal. I love that. They're reminding me of when I was in Mexico. Mexico, I miss you. I love you. When I was in one of my soulmates, when I was in Mexico and I was in the jacuzzi and I met this person and we got talking and I was so energized by that conversation because I could feel that that person and I are the same archetype. Like there is something about who we are as beings, people in this world, like how we tick, that was similar. And in many ways, this person was very dissimilar to me. This is a wealthy white man from Canada with Dutch ancestry. Like, no, do you know what I mean? I'm very misogynistic. There were lots of things that were a problem with this person. And so I named those things. The misogyny was the problem, the whiteness. This is not objectively a problem. But I mean, I named that to talk about what we can perceive. Like I said, if we've had these classifications and this zoning in our society around who you get to be around, he and I should not have connected. And yet, when we talk about these schools of fish, he was part of that school. He just wasn't a person that I was going to swim the whole river with. Do you know what I mean? But you know, when I said that, certain conditions, certain environments, habitats in the environment are going to mean that certain kinds of species are going to be in the same area. It meant that I was in the same area as him. It doesn't mean that that man is like my bestie, but he was there on this same trajectory, the same road, this same evolution through life. And one of the ways that we are really messing up is by not learning, connecting with, experiencing people who are quote unquote different from us. And I don't mean that from the perspective of hear both sides. I don't care about that. I'm a Mercury Libra person. I'm very capable of hearing both sides. I listen to all the sides. And a lot of the time, you know, we'd be like, hear both sides of genocide, for example. I'm not really trying to do that right now. So I don't mean it in the sense in which that is like politically used to neutralize. That's what I mean. When I say we're missing out on the perspectives of people who are different from us, I mean that our categorization is wrong. How we are assigning value, Venusian principle, how we are assigning value to people and who we do and don't engage with is all wrong. They want me to pull some cards about an alternative value system then. I also have no concept of how long we're going to be here because I lost all sense of time. So as and when you need to leave, you can leave because I don't know. I could be here for and likely will be here for hours. Okay. Okay, so they're talking with the Four of Pentacles and the Nine of Swords here. They're talking about our categorization processes that are creating the alienation, that are separating us from our soul group. And then they're given an alternative. And I just want to clarify. Ooh, a lot of energy in my right hand. Okay, change of deck. I moved it somewhere that I can't see, trying to be what did I do with it? I just had it a minute ago. I'm looking for my tiny world vision tarot card, which I specifically took out. Oh, here it is. There we go. Because this is the one that they would like to use. I'm also getting out a few more crystals, which is really interesting because I'm quite specific about what crystals I like and when. And I was using smoky quartz recently because the energy was a little bit heavy, and I find smoky quartz is really good at transmuting emotions, difficult emotions. I find it very supportive. But I'm not a person who's pulling out crystals at every given second. But even before I started today, I was like, oh, I need to get my bag of crystals out. And I'm really glad that I did because, again, the Gemini energy, it's like I'm actually needing the anchor. Okay. Crystals are out for supportive function for me. And let's have a little bit deeper inquiry on this different value system. In the chat, it says, I've been using more crystals recently too, and you know I'm not a rock girl like that. Definitely. There's been a shift in energy. I really feel it. I guess when Jupiter is in Taurus, you could just kind of like, it was weighty. Do you know what I mean? It was like, it wasn't hard to be in the body, and Jupiter's still in Taurus, but I mean, with the transits moving now into, with Sun in Gemini, and Jupiter beginning to move in, I'm feeling that transitionary energy of actually some of this anchoring that a lot of this planetary buildup in Taurus has been giving us is not there. And I can feel the difference, which I also really enjoy. I love perceiving like just the energy of divination itself and like what qualities it has based on transiting energy. Okay, let's have a look. I'm going to reshuffle that. Yeah. So I was talking and I feel like I moved out of the channel. And I know I won't trust it if I just try to jump back in and just look at the cards. So let's go again. Again, even that, like my mind just being like, this is going to be a very interesting time, these Gemini transits. Spirit. Okay, value systems. I'm also so anxious to know. I'm like, what is the answer? And they're like, can you wait? Okay. Such a fever to know things. All right, look at the cards, taking the energies in. We do have Earth Taurus here in the form of the major arcana 5, the messenger, and we have judgment, which is fire, Aries, Mars. Interesting. That's giving clout chasing. That's really funny. They want to talk about clout chasing. Yeah. There's another phrase here that's coming up, which is what can you work with? Jupiter in Leo seems to be you have to bear with me. This is how I'm processing what's coming through because it's a very different style of teaching I'm experiencing. So it's new for me, it's new for you. Experiencing from me. Jupiter in Leo is feeling to me like this comes through a 6 of Wands, is feeling like the outcome or the archetype, the ending of where this message is going in terms of what this alternative value system is. And then we have the 4 of Wands, harmony, and we have the Page of Cups, the home of expression. Okay. So with the harmony card, 4 of Wands, and the Page of Cups, I'll show you for those who like to see cards sometimes. What we're seeing as this kind of starting point of a different value system is what is in harmony and what is discordant. So again, that person may not be someone that I would like hang out with every day of the week. I'm talking about that person that I met in the jacuzzi, but what they had, Page of Cups, right? The signal, the energetic, emotional, internal level, subconscious level signaling from them was harmonious. What is this, the harmonica? I can't remember what that instrument is called. Harmonicas like that. So I don't know what this one is anymore. But that instrument, someone chat told me. Accordion, that's it, thank you. That accordion that's being played here is that there's something in you that is striking a chord in me. There's something in you that is playing, the story playing out with you is harmonious with some story going on with me. And that is one of the core, when we get into the foundations and spirit, I just want to say, I love this. But when we get into the foundations of how we are to discern what is worth engaging with, who we can be in community with, who we can consider to be either in family or ecosystem, because the ecosystem is a bit bigger than the family energy. I do want to say that. And that's why I talk about, for example, if you had a pride of lions and there's like 20 of them, well, there's not just 20 lions on that savannah. So you're going to have several different prides. So that ecosystem is also going to be what those other prides are doing, right? How much are they hunting? How many other cubs are they giving birth to? How much of the river water are they drinking? They're all going to impact you. So you can have people who are not in what we are calling here the family energy of who's going to really be like a school of fish that grows with you the whole time, because they are going to be in that ecosystem, the other group of people. And this group is who you feel can sense that chord, something in you is harmonious with me. I am interested in seeing what that is, right? I place value on this person for that reason. And I can see your comment. I really agree with that. I just didn't read it out loud because it won't mean anything to someone listening back. Okay. Love that. And I think it's exciting. Like there is a little bit, like I said, of discomfort for me in not knowing where all of this is going in terms of today's reading. I feel zero control. But there's so much pleasure in like, oh, is this what you're saying? And I think it's also good for you to see that this is not coming from Leona, the personality, like within my day-to-day human self from my mind. I don't know this stuff. If you had asked me an hour ago, what are the alternative value systems for creating family in the context of right community, I would have said question mark, question mark. Like, I actually don't know. So I love this process. Okay. Oh, okay, I see, I understand. Oh, why are they dragging? So what they're saying is, in the other cards that I was looking at, like again, I said, the value system that they're saying that we are using, other than, so we have the core value system, which is about classification through class, through race, through gender, through sexuality, all those sorts of things. And then on top of that, so think about that as the infrastructure, then the superstructure that is growing around that is the messenger and the judgment card. And they're saying one of those things that you all use is clout chasing. You love people who are popular, who have a platform, who have a voice. You love people who are influencers. You love people who can command the stage. Very, very interesting, because I said to you, Jupiter in Leo was going to be the outcome energy. And I really think they brought that to me because the energy of engaging in clout is the shadow aspect of Jupiter in Leo. We actually have someone in the room who has natal Jupiter in Leo, so I would love to see eventually how you feel about some of this stuff yourself. But the shadow aspect is garnering attention and enjoying the spotlight and exchanging and basing creating value around an ability to be seen. And that's it. Like, that itself is the value. Let's say, for example, you're a charismatic person, therefore your charisma garners you an audience, you therefore become a more valuable person. That is a very warped system of knowing who can be in your ecosystem. And now they're showing me that for you to include this person, the celebrity, the influencer, for you to include the clout chaser or be the clout chaser yourself by trying to have proximity to these people, is to you to bring a predator into your ecosystem. So think about animals, for example, who build nests or build homes or live or move in certain spaces in which they try to have distance from their predator. They're not trying to live next door. They don't want to be 10 seconds away. A deer is not going to relax in the grass 5 seconds or like this much distance, the distance of my hand away from a lion. It's not going to do that. Okay. So Spirit is saying for you to say that these people are who you're going to include in community with you, who's going to be part of your ecosystem and your family, is for you to invite a predator in. Why? Because their relationship to you is predatory. They use you as a resource. And you don't get anything out of it. And if you are getting things out of it, it is the expansion and reinforcement of that same system to say that you therefore will then grow, increase in your level of clout and use other people as a resource. So you are reproducing, so to speak. You are mating with that energy, that person, that individual, metaphorically speaking, to reproduce more of that kind. And so the card that we got here, the King of Swords, and the Vision card, Seven of Pentacles, though, Saturn and Taurus. I'll show you. Tiny bit uncomfortable with the way I positioned myself, but it's because my cushion is not soft. I may have to go and get something a bit. I'm going to actually, because I'm trying to start prioritizing my body in life. So if my body is saying, I don't like this, I'm going to listen. So I'm just going to say this and then go get my cushion. But this is talking about using people. Seven of Pentacles, this is a Venus card because it's Taurus. Venus is the ruler of Taurus. We're talking about material, functional use. You have a use. You are a resource. And then you can see the drill person, the person holding the drill hand, the King of Swords. You are somebody I can work on, utilize, do things, create with. And this is what they're talking about. This is the other level of harm that is going on, this superstructure of how we're valuing people. I can get something from you, you're useful to me. I maintain connections and relationships with people who are useful to me. If I can't immediately see how I can use you, I devalue you as a person. And they're saying that this framework is what has got us out of orbit with our soulmates, and being out of orbit with our soulmates is creating deep, deep, deep anguish, wounds, and they're showing me hell. I'm gonna pause it because I will come and talk about hell after I've got my pillow. Okay, so we are back, and I am talking about hell apparently. So when we were talking about being out of orbit with our soulmates, being therefore not in families, they started to show me the impact and what this actually feels like for us. And as I was looking at what they were showing me, I was like, oh, that's hell. And it isn't the hell that you might be familiar with in terms of Christian mythology and fire. I'm not seeing like fire. Actually, it was very black, very dark, and it had it's almost like what I could see was if I can see like bubbles, and I kind of want to like say almost like Casper the ghost, but if Casper, oh, why do I always forget his name or their name? What is the name of the thing in the Spirited Away? I always forget, but you'll know, yeah. Like a black moving ghost thing. Although to be honest, if I use that example, a lot of people are not even gonna know what I mean by that. No face. So that's it. And I always say I always never can remember it. But if you know the film Spirited Away, you can also just Google it to get an image, to get a sense of what I'm seeing. No face is what I can see, but much smaller and rounder. So like, I don't know why I'm describing it in such detail, but let's say if no face were this tall, or like a black Casper the ghost were this tall. And the reason it's more like no face is because there's nothing at the bottom. Like it doesn't, there's no, it's a little bit formless is what I mean. But there is a consciousness inside is what I can see. So there's like almost eyes. It's weird because there's eyes but almost not eyes. But I think that eyes are actually just symbolic of this thing being consciousness, this thing being a person, or would have been a person. Like I said, this is a domestication process, but this domestication process is into whatever you would call a resident of hell. That's what you are. To be a pet as a human in this system that we have is to be for hell to be a home. And so there's in this energy, what I can see is like it's really interesting. It's nebulous. It's like it's very formless and it's inarticulate. So there is again consciousness, rationale, no ability. It's like that. That's what like no. It's like there's no. Oh, it's horrible. Oh, I don't want to feel any more of that. Oh, that is bad. And it's what I would say is so interesting because this, and yeah, they're now saying to me there are multiple health planes, and hell is an archetype, basically. Damn. But releasing gold for the system. Yeah. It's actually really sad. I'm laughing, it's sad. They say there's multiple hell planes, right? So this is one of them. This is the hell plane that is created, that is manifested by virtue of this particular value system. So literally that hell plane wouldn't exist if we didn't have this value system. To remove it, to be released, is to change the value system. So now I'm just very curious about what has created the Christian mythological hell plane. Because when I say Christian mythological, I'm not saying that I'm saying the Christian hell plane doesn't exist. I'm naming it Christian mythology so that we can start to break the spell of monotheism in believing that it's that or nothing else. Because monotheism has actually helped to give Christianity a hierarchy over other belief systems. By calling Christianity mythology appropriately, as I should, you will start to place it in line with other things, you know, Greek, Egyptian mythology, Norse mythology. And then, right, now we can start dealing with it properly. But as long as it has this like consensus and truth that it is this kind of one true religion, or even Abrahamic religions being the true thing over others, then you don't engage with it with myth, and then you miss what to do with the religious technology. That's a tangent. So I'm very curious about that, but I can't follow that rabbit hole right now, even though I'm desperate to, because I will not come back. So the Virgo in me is going to reign in this Gemini energy and be like, stay on track. We are talking about, very hard for me, we're talking about this plane of hell for now. You don't even know, I'm so excited. The researcher in me is just like, me, ideas. Okay, this plane of hell. What I wanted to say is there is it's an unconsciousness. What it reminds me of now is sleep paralysis, or any of you who've had that kind of experience. I used to get a lot as a child, and particularly have some really difficult spiritual kind of incursions of energy onto me. And that comes a lot from being a very, like, let's say you're sentiently gifted, right, as a child, so you're a medium or you're something else, but you have no training around your gifts. Like, you don't have any awareness of it, nobody around you knows or respects it or knows, can give you an inkling of advice about it, then you just have gifts operating with you have no relationship to power over them. And so for me as a child, just having that kind of like perception level meant that I was constantly perceiving things I had no ability to engage with in an empowered way, and so they were just having incursions on me by just being able to let me see them. As I got older, that stopped. It's not really an issue for me now. If I get sleep paralysis, it never comes with spiritual incursion. So I will just get the experience of being awake and can't move my body. So it feels much more like the scientific level of it, which is the body is still under the paralysis of dream state, but the consciousness is woken up, and there is not the hormonal levels have not adjusted to release your physical body. So that still happens to me from time to time. I explain all of this anyway in a long-winded way to say that state both of them, whether that is being spiritually attacked, we can call it, or just unable to move, have power over your own faculties, but you're conscious, is what this hell state feels like. That's what I could feel. You know, when I said, oh, I don't want to feel that anymore, that's what I could feel. And so when I was talking about rewilding the self, when they talk about domestication, they're saying to be your domestication has been, and now making me think of Planet of the Apes, has been to remove your sentience away from you, to diminish the capacity of your consciousness, so that the kind of species, the pet that you are in your society and culture, can't do what it is capable of. You can't do what you're capable of, because now, let's say, for example, you lost the power of speech. And the part of me is like, make lots of caveats about disability, and I'm not going to, okay? I just think there should be some good faith engagement with me that I am not purporting ableist concepts. And if not, you can ask me about it and I'll respond. But in this moment, I'm actually not going to give 10 million caveats to say that this is not ableism. But what it is to be gradually shut down. And I think the reason I was thinking of Planet of the Apes, and I haven't watched it in years, and I know the new films in the cinemas, I can't remember the concept of it perfectly, but am I right in believing that the wild apes are really, they speak, they're brilliant, they've got amazing aptitude, and then in the human space, they regress to not being able to speak, etc. I don't know if that's actually the true plot. I could be butchering that, but that's at least what was coming up for me. You're asking the wrong person. Okay, so they're saying, like, let it drop in for a second, that concept of the hellscape that you're in. Because this hellscape is not just like people who are in the system. Do you know what I mean? I don't want anyone to sit here and be like, that doesn't apply to me because I'm a spiritual being or whatever. You're in it. That's loud. Sorry. You are in hell. You are in this hell plane. And I know that because too many of you are lonely. Too many of you could not name more than 5 people as family under the framework I'm talking about, and that's not related to blood relatives. So not the point of origin you were born into, like crashing into earth, and that was the site you crashed into. That is what I'm going to call your blood relatives. I'm talking about, can you name more than 5 people outside of your blood relatives that count as that school of fish that you're growing with, who understand you as a species, who get what is inside you as a soul, and that who you do life with? No, you can't. And if you can't, you are in this hell plane. I don't care how spiritual you think you are. Oh. Does anyone have any thoughts or questions in this moment, actually? I just felt prompted to ask that. I think there's something more here around the replacement belief system. Feels like there's a little bit more detail for us. I'm having such a good time. Just like to study and inquire. So one of the things that they're saying, yeah, love that. They're saying that one of our primary points, our starting points for us, is that the belief systems and the value system that we need in order to identify and to begin to move with family